Hi, I'm Alison Tafe. If you haven't met me before, I am the owner and director of ICE, the Institute of Culinary Excellence. All right, some basic mise en place stuff next. I'm going to show you how to chop parsley. I know you've probably all done it before, but it's a very pedantic way of doing it so that when it's sprinkled on the plate, it's all very, very finely chopped. I was taught to chop the parsley, put it into a piece of muslin cloth or the corner of my white apron. When I was at Westminster, I had to wear starched white aprons, or the corner of a beautiful clean tea towel, and chop it, put it in, and then wash it afterwards. And you know what? We never questioned anything in those days. Not like you lot today, you know, as soon as I do something like that, you'd ask me why. We never questioned anything because they were the masters. And I thought, why are we doing this? Why are we washing away all that chlorophyll? Why are we washing it? I know we have to wash it, but why not wash it first, dry it off, and then chop it? I don't know. My mum used to have a bucket with bleach in it, and she had all the corners of my white starched aprons in it, and she'd say to me, why are your aprons all green on the corner? And I'm like, oh, because we have to do our parsley. So we'll use a tea towel instead. And then she had the corners of all the tea towels in the bucket. My mum had to do all the washing and starching and ironing for the whole time I was at college, so whites every day, clean, and she was amazing, but she used to moan about it. And you know what, I never really understood why, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to defy everybody traditionally. I'm going to do it my way. All right, so we're going to get the parsley now. We're going to take off the florets of parsley. It's called picking parsley, and what it means is that you've taken away the stalk. Now the stalk, like coriander, there's a root on parsley which we kind of don't use. Parsley, there's nothing. But with coriander, the root itself is amazingly powerful in flavour, and we use that to make our curry pastes and stuff like that. The stalk is even greater. No, that's a lie. The root is probably about 50% of the flavour. This is about 40%, and 10% is left on the actual leaves. Coriander is a prime example of that. Now, parsley stalks, we use these in bouquet garnis because there's so much flavour in them. Like if you just go like that with the back of your knife and smash it, the smell of parsley is like 20 times more than this. So as chefs, we keep this. We've got to use for pretty much everything. But the florets are picked off and the stalks are kept. Alrighty, so I'm just going to go over to the sink quickly. I'm going to wash this under the tap. And you know, the best way of really washing a heap of it is to fill the sink with cold water, plunge it onto the top, allow it to settle and allow the grit and the dirt to fall to the bottom, and then to scoop it out the top and use a salad spinner. That's the best way of washing any leaves. It's the most delicate and it allows that heavy matter to drop down to the bottom, which is perfect. So again, I'm going to use a bit of paper towel and I'm actually going to dry it, just like I said. So I don't understand why we chopped it and then washed it, I don't know. And anybody watching this that's a traditionalist will go, oh, what's she doing? Yeah, like I say, I know the rules, but I don't want to follow them at this point. I want to do something that I think is easier. And also, I want the chlorophyll, I want that goodness. All right, so we're going to chop the parsley. We've washed it first, we've dried it all off, it's nice and dry. Don't forget the stalks are removed completely. Take a chef's knife and we're going to chop. And we're going to bunch this up just like we did the chiffonade. So I tend to bunch up the parsley and then I shred it first. We've got that chiffonade happening, so you just roll it up and chiffonade it. And you can do the same thing again. Just give it a little random chop before we change to a different knife technique. Now, I haven't really spoken about different knives for different jobs, but in this instance, you would definitely not be trying to chop parsley with this. It'd be like this. It's like being a hobbit, you know, just a little tiny little knife. This would be okay, this one. This is my Santuco knife. And this one would not be okay because it's too small and it doesn't have clearance for your fingers underneath. So you need to have it so that when we change our grip here, this is, when we're chopping, our knives clear the board, and also you've got that straight angled heel, which you need. So the next thing we're going to do is, this knife is best because we can hold on to the end and we can chop very lightly. Again, once you're chopping things lightly like this with a sharp knife, you don't bruise it and you don't get horrible black parsley. That's just not nice. It's just, all you're doing is a very, very quick chop, and you're holding the knife and you're using that technique at the end where you're just randomly going over this, gathering it, and again, just making sure that everything you chop is the same size. I've got a little stubborn piece there. I'm just going to roll it over just the back there for some reason. All right. Now, how do you know when enough's enough? Well, I suggest you sprinkle it onto a white plate or onto the boards, and you can see, you think you've done an amazing job, and then you sprinkle it, and it's like, oh no, actually I didn't. But so, you know, fine parsley should be really fine, but again, you don't want to damage it to the point where it's like a parsley paste, you know. So we're just going to make sure that we get this beautiful fine parsley. And can you imagine anything more silly than washing this now? Like, I just don't get it. But anyway, we've already washed it. It's already great. And I can see with my eyes, even that now to me looks beautiful. All right. If I was to, and I do need to wipe that knife, tap it down as much as you can, but make sure when you do this you're away from your blade. If I was to add a bit of chervil in there and some chives, I'd have what we call Finn's herbs, which is a classic mixture of herbs that are finely textured and enables a beautiful sauce to be made. Or a sauce vert, which is like a mayonnaise with green added to it and makes a bright green mayo. That has spinach with it as well. And they blanch this and add it to things, and the colour of that is amazing. But if you sprinkle that parsley, it looks beautiful. Now, it's a little bit wet because there's about probably 90% water in the parsley anyway. Yes, it was dried, but the parsley itself has a lot of water, as does lots of veg. You may need to sprinkle that out on a plate or a paper towel and allow it to dry in the atmosphere. I mean, put it on your service area above the lights, and it dries out, not to the point where it's dried like that horrible dried parsley at the supermarket in the tubs. I mean, dried enough so that when you sprinkle it, it doesn't clump. All right, so that's our parsley, and I'm just going to gather that around. I'm going to put that into a nice new bowl, and what I'll do is I will wash down my board completely, because the next job, if I do pineapple or crushed garlic, I don't want parsley in it. I don't want it anywhere near it. So that comes off the board, and then I'm going to wash the board down thoroughly. Parsley has the ability to take away some garlicky odour. And I don't know if you know this, but people say when you eat too much garlic or too much Italian food, that if you're going out with your girlfriend or boyfriend or lover, you're supposed to eat a bunch of parsley. It's supposed to be that the chlorophyll in the parsley cleans away that garlic. So if you've got a board that you've been chopping garlic on and you've got a parsley job to do it after, and it's going to, whatever. Obviously the garlic is going to be in the parsley, so make sure whatever you use it for is going to be all right with a bit of garlic. That would be mixed with a bit of butter, for example, like softened butter, rolled up in a piece of paper and made into what we call beurre maître d'hôtel, or the master or owner of the hotel. It's a butter. It's a compound butter. So you need to chop things fine, because that butter is sliced when it sets, put on top of a steak or lobster or some seafood. It melts, and then you can see the work of the chef underneath. So if the parsley is not fine enough, you're going to be able to see it. So make sure you chop it nice and fine.